Sorry, everyone.
Okay. Good evening. The February 13th, 2019 meeting of the Urban Design Commission will now come to order. It is 6:50. Okay, may I have a roll call?
Nicole Ream.
Here.
Monica Sullivan.
Here.
Jerry Winchester. Here. Melissa Morris.
Here.
Ed Leonetti.
Here.
Barbara Cash is excused. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to minutes. Looks like we have some minutes from Wednesday, December 12th, 2018. Can we get a motion to approve those minutes? Motion from Melissa Morris and second from Commissioner Winchester. Are there any objections to the minutes being approved? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Moving on to disclosures. Are there any disclosures this evening? No disclosures. So now we're moving right along to the consent agenda. Can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Again, we have a motion to approve the agenda from Commissioner Morse and a second from Commissioner Winchester. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent agenda for discussion? No. Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. Moving on to public hearings. Okay, before I even begin the public hearings, we have a short board this evening, so I'm going to go ahead and read the opportunity for postponement for a petitioner based on this short board. So when there is a short 5-member board or commission and a postponement is offered and agreed to by the petitioner, they will be moved to the next regular agenda. This should occur within 30 days, which does not require renoticing the case, nor does it require new public hearing notices and advertising. If the petitioner is willing to postpone but unable to attend the next available meeting within 30 days, the petitioner has a one-time only option to choose the next date certain that he or she can attend at no extra fee. When a postponement is requested by the petitioner, there is a rescheduling fee per AMCR 21-20-007A, and a new public hearing date shall be determined by the Planning Department. This will put their case in the next available cutoff date queue as if they were submitting their case for the first time. Having read that, we will move into the public hearings. The first. Okay. Before I move on to staff presentations for the first hearing on the agenda, if both petitioners are present, and if you would like to postpone, please raise your hand and come forward. Please come forward, thank you. And go ahead and state your name and spell it.
Jason Gamache, Gamache.
Okay, and so you would like, are you?
I would like to postpone.
Okay. So, okay. Okay, so my apologies, I've never had to do this before, so we're going to go ahead and go through this process. So, Mr. Gamache, can you please state who you're here to represent?
Yes, I'm here on behalf of Alaska Airlines.
Okay, and that would be case 2018-0102?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, now I guess I need to request a motion to postpone this case just to the next available meeting, which is March. Okay, I'm still waiting for that motion to postpone from a commissioner with a second, so we can. Thank you, Commissioner Leonetti. Can I get a second? Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. So we have a motion on the floor to postpone the case. Do you care to speak to that motion?
Absolutely, yeah. The petitioner has requested to postpone because of the short board, and I think that's what we're executing. So,
Perfect. Commissioner Morse, did you want to speak?
Yes, Chair, I withdrew my motion because I'm unable to attend the March meeting, although because of the short board, I wanted you to be aware, but I am also aware that there are new commissioners coming on for March. I just wanted you to have that information.
Thank you. Okay. Petitioner, are you available to meet the next meeting, which is March?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. I believe we can go ahead and postpone that case then to the next meeting in March. So thank you, and
Thank you.
my apologies. We have one more case. Does that person wish to postpone? Okay. Okay. Okay, give me 1 second to read the public hearing process, and we'll get a statement from the staff, and then we'll ask you to come forward. Okay, so opening the public hearing for the next case, the procedure by which the public may speak to the Urban Design Commission at its meetings is 1. After the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. 2, persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Urban Design Commission Rules of Procedure. 2A, petitioners, including all of his or her representatives, have 10 minutes. Rebuttal by the petitioner may be allowed when time has been reserved. 2B, representatives of groups, including community councils, PTAs, etc., get 5 minutes. And 2C, individuals get 3 minutes. Item 3, when your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the commission. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the commission. 4, an individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Urban Design Commission takes, except commission recommendations to the Assembly, which are not appealable. Appeals must be filed with the clerk's office within 20 days after approval by the Urban Design Commission of the resolution, which is the commission's final decision. A fee for the appeal is required at the time of filing. So we're moving on to the second case in the public hearings. Case 2019-003. Petitioner is Panda Restaurant Group. May we have the staff's presentation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Case 2019-0003 is a request for approval of an amendment to a de facto major site plan to add a secondary building to the site located on the northeast corner of Diamond Boulevard and the Old Seward Highway. The secondary building will be for Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, a drive-through restaurant. The original development of this site was in 1969 prior to zoning. Because development of the site was before the requirement for a large commercial facility to have an approved site plan, the development has a non-conforming status and is considered to have an approved major site plan. The 2040 land use plan map identifies this area as a regional commercial center within a transit-supportive development corridor. The 2040 plan encourages these areas to evolve into mixed-use activity hubs with office, lodging, community, and residential uses. Food service is one of the designated uses for a regional commercial center. As a part of the proposal for this site, the applicant is also seeking approval of 3 alternative equivalent compliance requests. You will find the requests for approval in Section 5 of your packets. AMC 21-12-060 requires sites with non-conforming characteristics of use to move in the direction of conformity of Title 21 when a development project on the site totals more than 10% of the replacement cost of the building. Pages 15, 60, and 61 of the staff packet provide details about the required changes in the direction of conformity proposed in this project. These changes include upgrades to required parking lot interior and perimeter landscaping, new pedestrian sidewalks, bike racks, and new light poles in the area where the restaurant will be located. The main building on this site has non-conforming rights for the lack of design standards. No changes are proposed to the facade of that structure. The secondary building proposed for the site must meet the large retail facility standards for secondary buildings. The Planning Director, Michelle McNulty, has approved the location of the drive-through queuing lane between the building and Diamond Boulevard in accordance with AMC 2105-070D6B. A copy of that approval is on page 102 of your staff packet. The requirement for open or community space on this site is not met. The aerial photographs on pages 62 through 68 show that open space was added in front of the main building on the lot sometime between 2005 and 2007. The 2014 aerial clearly shows the large open space area south of the main building. Sometime after 2015, a portion of the community space area was removed to create additional parking. The area exists today as shown on the site plan on pages 46 and 47 of your staff packet. The removal of that community space after the requirement for community and open space was in effect created a violation of the required open space standard of AMC 2107-030 and the required community space standard of AMC 2107-125E. The applicant has requested approval of an alternative equivalent compliance for this standard, as is allowed by AMC 2107-120A3. Please see page 100 of the staff packet for this request. The parking on the site conforms to current Title 21 parking requirements. The total required parking for the entire mall site is 174 parking spaces. The site plan shows 189 parking spaces are provided. The majority of the standards are met for the proposed secondary structure. 2 of the 3 required weather protection for pedestrian standards are being provided with this site plan. See page 10 of the staff packet for details on that. The 3rd standard, requiring weather protection along at least 60% of building elevations that face public streets or customer parking lots and walkways, is not met. The north elevation meets the 60% requirement for the length of the canopy, but the east elevation has only 57% of the length covered and does not meet the 60% requirement. The applicant has requested the Commission to approve the east elevation with less than the required 60%. AMC 2107-120A5C3, that's the alternative equivalent compliance standard, allows the Commission to increase or reduce this requirement. See page 98 of the staff packet for the request to reduce the requirement for a canopy on the east elevation to 57%. In addition to the mandatory standards of AMC 2107-120A5, 2 of the optional design standards from subsection 6 are required. The 2 optional standards selected by the applicant are ice-free sidewalks and street-facing windows. The ice-free sidewalk standards are met. The street-facing window standard is not met. The standard requires 15% of the street-facing wall facade to be windows. The window area indicated in the plan is 14.6% of the street-facing wall facade and doesn't quite meet the required 15%. The applicant has requested the Commission to approve an alternative equivalent compliance for less than 15% windows. Please see page 99 for that request. The proposed addition of the secondary building to this site is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. It upgrades this regional commercial center and brings the overall site in the direction of conformity with Title 21. In conclusion, if the Commission approves the alternative equivalent compliance requests, the Department finds that the standards of approval are substantially met. The changes to the site meet the requirements to move in the direction of conformity, and therefore the Department recommends approval of the major site plan review, subject to conditions of approval 2 and 3 on page 17 of the staff packet. These conditions address the requirements of the non-motorized transportation coordinator for pedestrian connections and require details to be added to the site and landscape plans. If the Commission does not approve the alternative equivalent compliance requests, then the Department recommends approval of the site plan subject to conditions 2 and 3 above, and the addition of the applicable requirements on condition 4 of page 17 of the staff packet. Condition 4 requires plans to be provided to show the required 2,000 square feet of open space on the site, 60% canopy on the east elevation, and 15% windows on the building's south side. I will be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff? Commissioner Winchester.
So just to rephrase so that, because there's a lot going on here. If we approve the alternate equivalence compliance in these, and there are 3, A, B, and C, and the question I guess I'm still having trouble figuring out, because I hadn't really found those, because it was buried in the back of the packet. Those alternate requests, I understand the windows, it's instead of 15%, they have 14.7 or something,
Yeah,
okay?
14.
So it's like, they need another 5 square feet of windows. That's pretty minimal. The 60% requirement for canopy, do they have like 57%? Is that what it is?
Yes, that's correct.
So they're 3% short on canopy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to get my numbers straight here so I'm not.
Got it.
And then on the site plan, the issue is they say there's 2,000 square feet of open space required, but there's 30 feet is the minimum dimension. They don't meet the dimensional requirement. Is that correct?
18 feet is the minimum dimensional requirement for open space.
18? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So no dimension of the required open space can be less than 18 feet.
And so even though they have 2,000 feet of open space, they don't meet the 18-foot requirement? Is that correct?
Yeah, they don't meet the minimum dimensional standards.
So theirs is less than 18 feet?
Yeah,
Is that
so
correct?
technically, we would not say that they've met the 2,000-foot requirement because they don't meet that minimum dimensional standard.
So if it's 17 feet wide but long enough to have 3,000 or 2,000 square feet, you're still, I mean, we understand that you're saying it needs to be 18 feet minimal, so they don't meet the requirement. I'm just asking, do they have the 2,000 square feet, as far as you know? Or because it seems to me that they're saying that existing concrete public space approximately 2,000 square feet and meets the minimum requirement. However, some dimensions are less than 30 feet. That's what they're saying in their request, and I'm just trying to verify because I haven't gone through with a microscope and understanding what you believe there to be there.
I believe they do have the 2,000 square feet, but that they don't meet the minimum dimensional standard. I'm going to just double check on that minimum dimensional standard.
Yeah, they're saying the minimum is 30 feet. You're saying 18, so I'm
Yeah, I'm
a
going to
little
double
bit.
check that.
Yeah. Are they basically saying that little strip of open space is the open space? Oh. So they have the 2,000
That's
square.
correct. It's the minimum dimension is 30 feet. Sorry, it's under the large commercial facility standard, it's 30 feet. Under the open space standards,
This is not their open
it's
space.
18 feet.
Okay. So do you have, I mean, without me piling through the packet, do you know where that 2,000 square feet of open space is claiming to be? I mean, I'm looking at a site plan that has sidewalks and driveways and, and landscape islands, and I'm just not really sure. Are they just saying all of that space is the 2,000 square feet?
So I would probably like clarification from the petitioner, but I
Sure.
believe what they're looking at
Okay.
is the space that is just south of the main building, to the south and east sides of the sidewalk, in that sidewalk area.
Oh, south and east of the main
The
building.
main building, correct.
Ah, okay. Way over there, okay. Because the original open space was in front of the bank building, correct? It got converted to parking per the aerials?
I think.
Is that correct?
It's what's now Liberty Dialysis. It was Morrison Auto Group was where that open space was removed from.
Oh, in front of the old main building. I
Correct.
see. I got you. Okay, okay. I've got the right aerial here. I was looking at 4 different aerial photographs trying to figure out where we were. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think that kind of covers my, at least initial understanding questions that you, as to where you folks are, and we'll hear more from the petitioner, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple questions on the drive lane. Do you know, like I read the letter from Kittleson and the justification of kind of what's there. Do you know why they located it in that location? Just says that how they solved the headlight scenario, but why did they put it between the building and the street?
That would be a good question for the petitioner.
Okay. And then there's a couple of different landscape plans in here. I'm presuming that we're using the one that's signed,
Correct.
and that's revised based on,
Based on requirements from the traffic engineer for screening between that queuing aisle and the Diamond Boulevard.
okay, great, thank you.
Based on Commissioner Leonetti's question, can you direct me to the signed versus unsigned landscaping sheet?
Sure. It's, well, I stumbled upon it in the case packet. I think it's page, hold on here. Here it is, page 72.
And this is not in the,
I don't know if I saw it in, it might be in the petitioner's packet. I don't know, it's really hard to decipher this packet.
thank you. The question I would have then, what are the differences between the signed and unsigned? I have not had a chance. Are there any, you said based on traffic comment?
The signed landscape plan has evergreen trees in the areas where headlights are anticipated to possibly have an impact on Diamond Boulevard.
And that was the only change? Okay, thank you.
There's other plant material changes in there. It's not just adding evergreens. The shrub count changed, some other tree counts changed.
Okay. Okay, I don't see any other questions for the petitioner. Thank you. Or staff. Random. Thank you. So moving on, we're now, will the petitioner come forward? Please state and spell your name for the record.
Good evening. I'm Wendy Wilber, WendeWilber, with Kittleson Associates, and I am here representing Panda Restaurant Group. And they did want to send along their apologies. They were here in January to attend this meeting, but were not able to come back up.
Okay.
But they did want to ensure that they are committed to doing a quality project. And
Thank you. And I forgot to ask, do you want to reserve any of your 10 minutes for rebuttal?
yes, about 5 of it.
Okay.
So I'm going to just jump right in and start addressing the alternative equivalent compliance, because that seems to be where the most questions are, rather than going through the whole packet again. So just starting with the landscape plans, the stamped landscape plans do include the community space, they included the berm at the drive-through, and they included the bicycle racks, which addresses condition number 3. So we updated those plans already to address condition number 3 that we needed to provide those. Condition number 2 was from the Bike and Trails PED coordinator to add a sidewalk on the southwest corner. That was actually not permitted by MOA traffic because that sidewalk would cross the drive-through lane, and that is not a very safe crossing there. So that was actually not something that traffic wanted us to do. So we would recommend that that condition of approval, that we don't add that pedestrian connection. Now, as far as the community space, the original space that was removed was part of a car dealership, and it was actually designed to display cars. So it jutted out into the middle of the drive aisle lane. So it was removed, but it was not a very desirable space for community space because you would actually be sort of sitting in the middle of the drive-through lane. Cars came straight at it, have to jog around, and then go by it. So as we were looking for the ways to address the community space, there already is at the principal building in front of Liberty Dialysis some nice space. Not all of it meets a 30-foot dimension. There are portions of it that do. Some of it's about 20 feet. So we've enhanced that with planters to help buffer it between the drive aisle, and we've also added some benches. Any additional community space would again kind of jut out into those drive aisles. It's a very busy drive aisle, and you would have pedestrians sort of sitting next to the traffic. So it wouldn't be very used. So we tried to take advantage of what's already there and enhance that. We also like the fact that it is in front of Liberty Dialysis. That's a good open space for the people using that facility. As far as the weather protection canopies, on the 60% of the building elevation on the east side, what's important to note here is the sidewalk terminates at the door, and that's also where our canopy terminates. If we actually extend that canopy further, it would not be over the sidewalk. So it was a very purposeful end to it. We want to guide pedestrians to the door and not any further, and we don't want to encourage them to cross where we don't want them to cross, which would be the drive-through lane. So actually, if you just go by sidewalk length, 73.6% of our sidewalk has weather protection. And in addition, the front elevation, which would be, or not oh, now I'm going to get all directional challenged. The north elevation that actually faces the principal building has 66% canopy coverage. So if you look at the total building, we actually have 63% of the wall length. So we feel like not only have we met the standard, we've actually are providing something better in our alternative equivalent compliance. And then the last one would be the windows. So there's a couple of ways to look at this. We're required to have 15%. We have 14.6. If you actually go to the rules of construction under the definition, it says calculation for required minimum or allowed maximum dimensions such as height, lot coverage, open space, etc. is measured to the nearest inch, and then you round it. If a fraction is 0.5 or greater, you round it up. So we believed that we could round this 14.6% up. The struggle with this building is you do have kitchen on basically half the building, and so we did maximize the windows. If we went higher on the windows, we're already at 11 feet. You're not going to provide any increased visibility, and you're actually going to get into the structure. If we tried to extend them down, we have kitchen equipment that's in the way. We also looked at this building, and if you're traveling westbound on Diamond, that elevation, which is actually your east elevation, is highly visible to traffic. And we maximize windows on that. With this building, we were very purposeful to try not to have a back-facing facade with all the utilities. So if you look at the windows on the east elevation plus the windows on the Diamond side, we're actually at 15% total. So what we did is maximize windows on every elevation that we can and really tried to minimize the back of house look of the building.
Thank you. Do you want to continue?
No, I will save my time for rebuttal or answer any questions you have now.
Okay. Looks like we do have some questions. Commissioner Morse?
Thank you, Chair. Could you repeat the reference for the measurement? We were talking about percentages of window, I believe. Was that a Title 21 reference?
Yes, it's the rules of construction, and I didn't write down the code.
It's okay. I'll
It's
find
in the
it.
definitions
All right, thank you.
of how to do that, yeah. I read it verbatim, I just forgot to write down the code.
We'll come back to you, Commissioner Morse, if that
Through
works.
the chair, we can provide that code citation if you'd like.
Yes, please, thank
I'll
you.
need it for findings. Thank you.
It's the code citation is 21.14.030.
21.14.0300.
2.
Okay, Commissioner Morse, did you have
No, that's it.
anything
Thank you.
further? Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Hi, Wendy. Will you canopy extend over the ADA parking? I mean, your sidewalk in front of the building, it's 7'7". Your canopy projection is about 6 foot. If I understand well the elevation, it would not be covering the ADA style. I mean, I'm just saying, could you move the ADA style so it's underneath the ramp for ADA, it's underneath the canopy? I mean, wouldn't it be nice? Or
So it's also a heated sidewalk. The drive-through lane is heated, the sidewalks are all heated. The 6-foot canopies, this is a small 2,600 square foot building, and the canopies do meet code. We hesitate to manipulate the canopies any more than we already have. They're already very big for the building. They're already blocking light. So at this point, we would prefer to leave it the way that it is, and the ADA stalls best meet the entrance into the building.
yeah, you're fine. I mean, I didn't know you have heated sidewalks.
Yeah, it's heated all the way, and the drive-through aisle is also heated.
fine.
So I think we exceed the heated sidewalk by, we're only required to have 35%. We actually have 65% of heated sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Commissioner Winchester?
Thank you. That was a good presentation. So on your sheet L102, there's a dotted area in the upper right corner, and I just want to clarify, that is the area that you're intending to be representing the 2,000 square foot open space?
So if you go to the bottom of the page, on that same page,
Yeah.
that shows the full area that's intended to be the open space. So it was just a little bit cut off our sheet, so we just moved it to the bottom of the sheet. So it still has some larger gathering areas. And other uses of this building, it's Liberty Dialysis, it's a pawn shop, and it's pet zoo.
So how many square feet is that?
It is 2,000 square feet.
Okay. Thank you.
So we do meet the minimum size.
Thanks. No.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to ask the same questions that I asked to her, and I suspect Mr. Briggs can answer most of them. If not, you can. So the first one is the location of the drive-through, the lane. Do you know why it was located there?
I do. It's very challenging to infill an existing site and to meet all of Title 21 requirements, in particular to make sure that there's safe traffic flow through this site and to meet the minimum of 10 queuing spaces and not disrupt the existing uses there. And so this really was the optimal layout. We worked with the property owner of Morrison Investments to also make sure that we maintained parking to his principal building. And so with that, we did the enhanced landscaping where we bermed it, we added the shrubs.
So my concern is twofold. One is proximity, close proximity to Diamond Boulevard. It's about 8 feet or 6 feet separation at the actual window to the speed up lane to Diamond Boulevard. And it's just a horrible experience. You have a confused look on your face. So at the drive lane, or at the window on the south side, there's the drive lane.
Right.
12 feet or 10 feet, whatever it is.
Yep.
And then the narrowest part of that landscape bed. And then you have I think there's a sidewalk, and then there's a drive lane, a speed, basically get up to speed lane. And it is basically right up against the right of way, which is the edge of the sidewalk. So it's within close proximity, and when you're at these locations and you're in close proximity to the high speed roads, it is extremely difficult to take orders, to listen, to hear the people on the other side. So I'm curious why it was located there. If it's simply because you need to have 10 queuing lanes and that was it, or if there's something with the building location or other things.
Primarily it was when you're retrofitting and infilling a site, you're limited at what you can do with existing setbacks, easements, Title 21 requirements, landscaping, adding a pedestrian walkway from Diamond to the principal building, and maintaining a safe circulation pattern throughout the site. This was the optimal layout.
Did you try rotating the building 90?
I can honestly look you in the eye and say I probably did 15 site plans to make this work, and then I did 10 more.
Yeah.
And that is not an exaggeration. And we worked closely with the property owner to come up with a design.
Okay, so the next one, I don't agree with it, just to put that out there. I think it's a horrible design. I think there are other options to lay it out, but I'm not designing this thing. The other concern that I have is the pedestrians coming from the main facility. You come down a sidewalk, it's a nice sidewalk, 8 or 10 feet wide, or maybe 12, and then you're looking straight into card headlights. And the pedestrian's obviously smart enough to shift and go left and then go back into the sidewalk and then shift again. So it seems like there were some reasons for doing that. And again, that's what I'm curious about. Why?
Well, first of all, this is not a totally dark site, so this is the parking lot is well lit, which minimizes the impact of the headlights on the pedestrian. And again, you know, you're space constrained on these sites, and this was the safest way to get the pedestrians to Diamond Boulevard and to connect the principal building to Raising Cane's restaurant. There's only so many options to keep your parking requirements and to meet all of the different standards.
Okay.
And we do meet code. We meet and exceed code pretty much for the building designed for the amount of landscaping. Our landscaping plan exceeds Title 21 because the Raising Cane brand has such a high standard. So we really are exceeding code in most cases.
Yeah,
even our sidewalk widths are wider. I mean, we've really gone above and beyond, and our site plan does meet every code requirement.
The question pertained to pedestrian circulation, not landscape and plantings. So moving on, the enlargement of the community open space, is that an active drop-off?
Yes, it is, for Liberty Dialysis.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Sullivan.
I was looking also at the pedestrian circulation from Diamond Boulevard to the existing building, and I see that you have the connection and the switch, which is fine, and I can see why you put the cross in that side so they don't have to cross the drive-through. But I see you have some ADA ramps in some areas and not in others. So at that cross, you don't have ADA to get from the corner of the new building to the island where you do the switch. You know, there's kind of ADA ramps missing.
I'm sorry, they're just missing on the landscape plan. They show up on the civil plan.
Okay.
So we will correct that on the landscape plan, but they are definitely on the civil. And if not, then that will be something that we would change because the intent is for those to be ADA.
Yeah, so probably you need to the north and it's north and west, correct?
Yes.
To the new building.
Yep, that is an error, thank you.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you, I think that's all.
And I think it's also just important, and when you're looking at this pedestrian walkway, this is better than probably 95% of our sites have. We actually do have a safe pedestrian walkway through this site, and it's much better than walking through a parking lot, and you would have all these same issues if you were just a pedestrian wandering through a parking lot.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti.
Actually, I'm going to hold that question. I have a question for staff. So after we're done here. Thanks.
I'm not seeing that there are any other questions. Are there any other questions for the petitioner? How about staff? Oh, I'm sorry. We do have one more. Commissioner Winchester.
So this is for the petitioner, just to confirm, you're in agreement with all of the conditions that are put forward, assuming we...
There's one that she didn't like, she'll tell you.
Yes, I'm in agreement with all the conditions, assuming that the alternative equivalent compliance is approved.
As long as we agree with the alternative compliance. I
Correct.
understand that, yes. No.
What was the condition that you said that wasn't achievable to ask to remove?
Well, the condition says resolve the pedestrian connection in the southwest corner. So I'm fine with that. I can resolve it with planning, but traffic is opposed to adding a pedestrian connection there because it's incredibly unsafe.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but you don't have a problem with resolving it.
No, I don't have a problem with resolving it.
That's all I'm wanting to make sure that basically everything on this list, if we were to approve it, you're good to go.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, are there any questions for staff?
Oh, yeah, I have a question for staff. So when we're going through the motion to approve, and do we need a motion for each alternative compliance? Motion to approve?
Through the chair, Mr. Leonetti, yes, you'll need to make an individual motion for each alternative equivalent compliance.
Okay, and there's 2 of those right now?
Or three.
Three, okay, great, thank you.
Okay. We will now open the hearing to public testimony. Is there anyone here wishing to testify? Please state your name and spell it.
Madam Chair, my name is Tim Potter with Dowell, P-O-T-T-E-R. I didn't intend to speak tonight, but I wanted to clarify a couple things. I'm representing the landowner and owner of the primary building. This is a retrofit into a grandfathered existing situation. And Mr. Leonetti, I can attest to you that of the 20 or 30 that Wendy did with CRW, and the 10 she did after that followed about the 35 or 40 that I did. And this is a monkey puzzle. Understand your concerns about the location of the drive-through and that, but when you have an existing building, you have the code telling you that the code cannot force you to do an uptick in the compliance if it creates a situation where you lose parking or become non-compliant in some other way. So you were trying to mix this thing around, and even though it's a fairly small building, you have to respect the location of the parking that's principal to the main building, and that there's a shared approach to the parking to this, and it actually works very well this way. And in order to try and get the pedestrian circulation in a safe fashion, make the site work together, and not have this facility overwhelm the existing facility and vice versa, this was the ultimate workout. The property owner's in full agreement and has participated since day one in going back and forth with Wendy, CRW, and the owner developer of the new project. And this is a hard one, even though it seems easy. If you want to, after this action is approved, go back just as an exercise. If you can do better and meet all those constraints and not impact the existing development.
Is that a pass not to pass the
Yeah, it is, you'd be the man. So, if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Thanks for coming up and explaining a lot of this. I do still have some concerns, and I do respect that there's been some, there's a lot of iterations, I'm sure, that went through it, and, there's some issues that, like there's more parking than is required by code. So it's like, okay, well, that's interesting. We had a case last month that was less. And if there's a tight site, why are we parking more than is required by code? So, I mean, it's getting into the minutia, and so I won't belabor it.
It's a very interesting discussion, and if we could walk you back through the whole process, the dimensions of when this was a Carr Gottstein property and the parking was laid out and all that, the parking aisles, the parking spaces, all that were not necessarily dimensioned as one would think. In fact, it was pretty loosey-goosey as to this aisle had 5 extra feet and this one had 2 less than it was supposed to have in that. So there's been a considerable amount of landscaping consolidated on the common driveway with the property to the west. So there has been a very significant enhancement there, and the islands that have the landscaping were also enhanced. So this actually trues up and adjusts the parking so that everything is dimensionally correct. There's been additional landscaping put in. So there was almost a whole row of parking that went away when everything was justified. So I can't explain. I wasn't around when that facility was originally built by Carr Gottstein, but it was an interesting one to go at because something just looked wrong. And I know we actually asked Wendy to do some additional surveying to try and figure out what was going on. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to come up and testify? Looks like we are moving on back to the petitioner. Would you like to use your remaining time for rebuttal? You have 5 minutes.
I won't take all 5 minutes, I promise. I do just want to say we did go to the community council and we had 100% support for this. This is really, I don't know how familiar you are with the site, but it is an expanse of asphalt, and this is really going to change the character of the corner, I think, in a very positive way. It adds considerable landscaping. And yes, we still have some extra parking spaces, but the client was only required to spend 20% of the budget to bring this site towards conformance. As this site continues to redevelop and the property owner wants to do more things, they'll lose some additional parking as they continue to add more landscaping and address things that are not in compliance as they move forward. So I think that this is a great benefit to this area. It's going to really add a lot of beautification. And the first Raising Cane is opening here at the end of March. They're hiring 120 employees. And so I think they're a good community member. So encourage your support on this and entertain any other questions.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for the petitioner? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The public hearing is now closed, so the decision rests with the commission. Is there any discussion, or can we get a motion?
I had one other question for the petitioner, if she could come back.
My apologies.
Sorry. It pertains to the open space question and the usability, and these are minimums, so just so before we go down this next path of a bunch of motions, you guys envision, I'm sure Mr. Briggs was part of the layout of it, and there's a story behind it. I'm interested in hearing that. Because it doesn't seem like it meets the intent of the code, but it might meet the intent of how the space is going to be used.
Well, the intent of the code is a place for people that are working there to go outside and gather and take a break. So I'd argue that it does meet the intent of the code. We've provided benches. It's an expanded space. You're not going to have a lot of people gathering at once. I also think it makes sense to have it up against the building where it's secure. There's actually some windows there that look into Liberty Dialysis, so you have a sense of safety and you're not in the middle of traffic. We did look at some options.
No, I'm not suggesting moving it.
Right.
I'm just asking about, like, what was the vision of it being located there and why it's located there?
It's existing space, to be perfectly honest.
So people within the building, who's in that portion of the building?
Liberty Dialysis is down there. And then the other end is there's a new Sears store going in. I think they're just focusing on furniture and appliances. And there's a pet zoo and there's a pawn shop.
So it could be perceived that people within the dialysis would use it mostly?
I would think so, yeah.
And relax in the southern
Yeah,
exposure.
but anybody could walk down there and sit on a bench and it would be, I guess, the most pleasant place on the site. I mean, we sat down with planning and we sat down with the planning staff and looked at options of where this could go, and there aren't very many options for the open space. And this was what we felt would be the best one.
And there's a little on the left side of this enlarged plan. It looks like the hatch goes beyond the face of the curb. Is that getting reconfigured?
That's out in the drive aisle.
Yeah.
That is a painted median.
What? Say that again?
It's a painted. It's just a striped median that's there just to help channel traffic. Oh wait, am I looking at the wrong thing?
It's this spot that's an error.
Oh.
That piece that we're showing. I think Peter Briggs, landscape architect on the project, I think the area that you're talking about, Mr. Leonetti, is to the west of the drive-through aisle. There's a little triangle that comes off.
Yeah.
Can you please state your name and spell it for the record if you're going to address the, did you spell it?
Peter Briggs.
I couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
BGS. That's an error in the drawing.
Okay, so do you think there's capacity there to pick up the square footage to go in front of the ADA stall and?
For the whole area for the open space, it has quite a long linear length to it. The issue for this is that the major space where I think people would gather, and it might be nice, is east of the drive-through and then west of it. So for the total area in there, there's at least 2,000 square feet. But the minimum dimension in some places goes down below.
Is less,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
So there's the 2,000 square feet of space just doesn't meet the minimum requirements.
Oh, so it's in excess of 2,000 right now then?
A little bit.
It should be, yes.
Okay, all right, good, okay, great.
And then it's concrete planters. It'll be planted with annual plantings to define the space, provide a little bit of a sense of separation from the vehicles, like Wendy had said.
Yep, great.
And it was also really important to us that we maintained all the ADA parking in front of Liberty Dialysis. That was a huge consideration.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you sure I can sit down?
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Whitfield would like to speak.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, Mr. Leonetti, just to kind of piggyback on what Ms. Wilbur said, we did meet with the petitioner's representative for roughly 2 hours trying to find a solution to the community space problem that we had. I would say that the proposal by the petitioner's representative meets the intent of the code. It may not meet the letter of the code in that they're not meeting that minimum dimension, but certainly the space would be used for what community space is intended to achieve. So that is why the planning department is recommending approval of that alternative equivalent compliance.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Winchester.
So this question for staff, just to confirm, you are recommending approval of these alternative equivalent compliances in terms of, I mean, and I know we have to do the approval, but basically you're saying you've reviewed each one of these and they seem to be within the requirements?
Yes, we are recommending approval. We do believe that these items meet the intent of the site.
Right. Thanks. Just clearing that one. Thank
Okay. If there are no further questions for staff or the petitioner,
Just one last process. So we need to make a motion, 4 motions, and we need to start with our alternative compliances,
Yes, that's correct.
and we need to have findings for each of the alternative compliances.
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
okay, I have a motion to approve case 2019-0003, major site plan review for an amendment to a de facto site plan for a large commercial establishment to construct a secondary building, and a second from Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Leonetti, would you please state the motion? I'm sorry.
Yes, for case number 2019-0003, major site plan review for amendment, I would like to make the motion as it pertains to approving the required 2,000 square feet of minimum, 2,000 square feet of open space with the minimum, just that's it. Yes, that's what they just said. I think that's what, I mean, we don't need to say the 30-foot dimensions.
So through the chair to the commission, you could bulk all 3 together. The problem that happens if you do it that way is if one person disagrees with
Right.
one of the alternative equivalent compliance, you're either in one of 2 situations. 1, all 3 fail, or 2, you've got to break them out individually. So that was why I recommended breaking them out to begin with so that you don't get in that situation.
Agreed. Thank you. So this motion is to approve the alternative compliance for the 2,000 square feet of open space, period.
Thank you, Commissioner Leonetti.
Through the chair, Mr. Leonetti, if I can ask you to amend your motion to not have the 2,000 square feet of community open space meet the minimum dimension that's required by code, if that makes sense.
Yes, I can,
It's the minimum dimension in this case that is the issue, not the area for which they're providing the community open space.
I see.
They're not meeting the 30-foot dimension.
I see. So, right. Can I have 5 minutes? Thanks.
Should we take a quick recess?
We'll take a quick recess and try to get all of this. I think we're ready to come back to order. My apologies for that delay. We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Leonetti and a second from Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Leonetti, can you please state your motion?
Yes, so for case number 2019-0003, major site plan review for an amendment to a de facto site plan for a large commercial facility that had 2,600 square feet of Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers restaurant as a secondary building. I'm going to address the 3 alternative equivalent compliances in one here, and the first is that a motion that the plan provides open space that is less than the required 30-foot minimum dimensions and meets the 2,000 square foot area. And number 2, the elevation drawings that show the east elevation, the area required for canopy is reduced from 60% to 57%. And number 3, the elevations on the south side show sorry, hold on a minute here. The elevations for the south side concerning the window area, to allow the window area to be reduced from 15% to 14.6%. That is less than the minimum, yeah. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for the first alternative equivalent compliance request for case 2019-003 for that major site plan review for Panda Group. And that motion is the site plan showing the required 2,000 square feet of open space has less than the minimum required 30-foot dimensions. And also, elevation drawings showing the east elevation have area reduced from 60% to 53%.
For the canopy.
For the canopy, I'm so sorry.
57%.
57%.
Yep.
Let me repeat that. So elevation drawings showing the east elevation have an area, a canopy area reduced from 60% to 57%. And the third item, elevation drawings for the building's south side show additional required square feet of window area are less than 15% and actually 14.6%.
Yes.
Okay. Would you care to speak to your motion?
Sure. I'm in support of my motion, and it's very challenging, and this is a very challenging site, and the petitioner has done a great job explaining all of the facets of it. For the number one, the open space, the intention is for the users of the building to come out and enjoy the space outside and have a good time with southern exposure. For number 2, as discussed by the petitioner, the canopy and the building is a fairly small-sized building, and we believe that, at least I believe, that the canopy as represented in the drawings achieves the intent of Title 21, and therefore I support that one as well. And the elevation drawings with the window area, what the elevations represent, show that the even though it's 14.6 from 15, the code definition, which I forgot the reference, but allows rounding. So not only does it actually meet the code because of rounding, but we also believe that the square footage of the windows is an adequate scale and meets the intent. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Winchester. Would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, Madam Chair, just really quickly, I as well am going to support the motion. I think it is a very complex site, very unique situation. I think that the open space being back away from Diamond Boulevard as far as it can be, and yet still on the south side and still accessible to the public has, is the best place on this site. You could probably do it. I think it looks like folks have really gone around the different options to really come up with this solution. I'll bet there are always compromises, as we've discussed here tonight, but I think in general it's a good project, maintains additional parking spaces that allow the the building owner to do some things with landscaping and other things on this property that really was put together a long time before this commission or most of planning and zoning existed, and on a site where I used to hunt moose. Okay, thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Morse?
Thank you, Chair. Is it time for findings? Findings, correct? Okay. To add to the findings, the number one, the community space site plan, I find that the 2,000 square feet minimum is met, but additionally, the intent of the minimum 30-foot dimension, although not met to the letter of the code, is met by intent. It's an awkward shape, reusing existing space on the site, but will still serve as great community space. For number two, the windows on the, is my number two and yours are mixed up. Number two is windows, is that correct? Okay. So, canopy, okay. So for number two, the area of canopy on the south, on the north side of the building, right? No, east and north. East and north, okay.
It's just the east.
Just the east side, thank you. The amount of canopy is architecturally sufficient for how the building is accessed, seeing that the majority of the sidewalk on the east side of the building is covered by canopy. And then for number three, I find that the construction standards listed in Title 21.14.030.02 allow for a rounding of 14.6 to 15%. That standard is already met, or that alternative equivalent compliance is already met. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Morse. I'm not seeing that anyone else would like to speak, and so now I guess we vote. The motion passes. So now we're coming back to the main motion. Can I get a motion to approve this site plan? I have a motion from Commissioner Leonetti and a second from Commissioner Winchester. Would you please speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the case number 2019-003, major site plan review for an amendment to de facto site plan for a large commercial facility to add a new 2,600 square foot Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers restaurant as a secondary building. I move to approve with conditions as stated in the staff packet of 1, 2, and 3.
Through the chair, just a minor correction. There are 4 conditions.
Correct, but I am omitting the 4th because we. Oh, there's 2 4s.
There's 2 4s.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Thank you.
5. Did we make it 5?
So it should be 5. So I'll restate that then with with the recommendations 1, 2, 3, and 5.
Thank you, Commissioner Leonetti. Commissioner Winchester, do you care to speak to the second?
I intend to support the motion. I think we've covered all the pieces and parts that were of importance at this point, and I'm sure Mr. Leonetti and others will have lots of findings of fact. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Winchester. We will miss Commissioner Leonetti for his findings of fact, but Commissioner Morse, would you like to speak?
I would. I find that these infill projects, although they become more and more difficult in Anchorage, I really do commend the petitioner for the work that they've done. It's hard to do these infill projects, and Anchorage needs more people that are willing to do the hard work on the smaller sites. So thank you.
Commissioner Leonetti, do you wish to speak more to your motion?
Well, I'll have a couple more findings, I guess. So I'm in support of the motion, of course, and I think the petitioner has done a great job in laying out the site and the vehicular circulation, pedestrian movement. There's been some good discussion on that, and the orientation that is shown here has been proven to be the best orientation for the site. The building has good exposure on Diamond Boulevard. The landscape plan, I believe, exceeds what we usually see here. The petitioner has done an excellent job in varieties and solving the problems of headlights along the drive lane by adding a berm and having some low shrubs, which minimizes the people hiding behind shrubs and trees. And the community open space, as we discussed, I think is a good location and provides good access for the people of the existing facility. I would ask staff for that code reference for the rounding. Did you already say it? Oh, great. Thanks. I missed that. Okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other findings of fact, comments by the commission? Thank you so much for that presentation and for what you're doing to that site. It's going to be a lot better than the asphalt field that it was before. I didn't realize that you could hunt on it so many years ago, which is incredible. To pick Commissioner Winchester's brain on that one. But yeah, again, thank you so much for your patience as we go through those equivalents. You guys did a great job of making sure that you did what you could with the site. So nice job. Thanks. And now I guess we need a motion to approve again on the main motion, or a vote to approve. We need more hearings so that I can actually do this more often. So do I have to restate it though? Yeah. Right. Hey, don't mess me up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just state this because this is what should have happened. So we have a motion on the floor to approve case 2019-0003 Panda Restaurant Group's major site plan review for an amendment to a de facto site plan for a large commercial establishment to construct a secondary building. Can we get the vote? Thank you. Motion passes. Okay. So thanks very much for the petitioners that came out tonight. Moving on the agenda, we have nothing formal. Are there any comments from the commissioner? Commissioner Morse?
Bye, Ed. Thanks for all your work.
You will be missed.
If I could, thank you, everybody. It's been a blast on the commission, as you've seen through emails, and learned a lot. I think we've helped our community tremendously, and we're 5 right now, and you guys will be 6 or 7 on next month. And I'd encourage everybody to sit in Miss Ream's position. It's a great learning experience, as she knows. And it's a blast. So yeah, thank you for the fun times, and thanks for staff for entertaining all the questions and doing what you do over there. And thanks, Lori. It's great. You do a great job here. You keep us on the straight and narrow.
So that's that. So
well, she tries.
Do we have new people coming on board, right?
2.
And are they civil? What are they?
Civil.
Fabulous. Do you know who they are? Or
Yes.
Through the chair, we have Carla Baxley with R&M and Edith McKee with DOT and PF. They're both
Awesome.
engineers.
Awesome.
So they should be here at the next meeting in March.
Ladies power.
Also, please keep your staff reports for that Alaska Airlines. Thank you.
Question about that. Since they're coming on in March, they are able, since we didn't hear anything about the Alaska Airlines case, they're going to get a packet okay. Good.
We haven't adjourned yet.
Hey, Commissioner Winchester,
We need to
can I get a motion to adjourn? Oh, I have a motion from Commissioner Morse and a second from Commissioner Winchester. Good night.
If I can, just real quick, Mr. Leonetti, on behalf of the planning department, I would like to say, thank you for serving on this commission, and thank you for doing your public services. Truly appreciated.
You're welcome.
Thank you very
for
much.
that. Appreciate it. Thank you.